Welcome to the Global Oneness Summit, transforming our lives through conscious creativity. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Sajady, and we'll be discussing oneness and the Ascension process. Let me share a little bit about Mas. Mas is changing everything we know about human transformation. Using knowledge and abilities gained from multiple near-death experiences, Mas offers answers to life's biggest questions and has helped hundreds and thousands throughout the world. People have reported massive changes in all aspects of their lives. Mas is pioneering human consciousness and calls the unique knowledge and abilities acquired after his near-death experiences XI, or exponential intelligence, which combines the physics of space-time and power of frequencies for rapid, real-time life transformations that go far beyond psychology, willpower, or any other known self-improvement method. Mas has worked with business leaders, professional athletes, celebrities, royal families, and Fortune 500 executives, and donates his time to assist schools, hospitals, special needs organizations, low-income communities, and more. Welcome, Mas.
Krista, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so excited to be with you.
Yeah, me too.
Where are you calling from today?
Actually, I'm at home, Minneapolis. I know I travel a lot, but you did catch me at home. It's a beautiful day out here.
Wonderful. And did you recently get back from anywhere? Have you been
Oh, I
traveling?
did. Yes, actually, we came back from China. It was really a fantastic experience. You know, it really allowed me to come into, say, deeper states of understanding, almost like a Buddhist state level, which was really great. You know, back then, back in the day when the real Buddha, the original Buddha was alive, you know, he did go to certain temples or meditate in certain areas. And we did visit some of those areas, and you could actually feel his presence, his essence still there. And we did some deep state meditations in those areas. It was quite amazing. And, you know, so I downloaded a lot of, say, information from that China experience that I'd like to share with you on what consciousness is about and how to access it, so we can come into that, say, oneness state that we all are, say, searching for.
Amazing. Yeah. So can we go into that frequency a little bit so that this whole talk and conversation could be experiential?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and we can, what I can do is get you into a deep state. I call it meditations, but you know, my meditations are they're more of rewiring you or setting you back to your original state of who you are. Because nowadays, you know, if you really think about, you know, becoming one, because that's what it's all about. Well, you can't really become one if you are, say, say you inherited a lot from your mom and dad, right? And they inherited a lot from their mom and dad, and so on and so on and so on and so on. So there's that. If you just go 12 generations back, Carissa, there's over 4,000 people, life experiences that are in you, just 12 generations back. 4,000 people, over 4,000 people are needed to create, again, you. And that's your experience of life is an amalgamation of all those individuals behind you, right? So that's not a oneness state. What we're really trying to do is evolve into and make a better version of ourselves. We can use, say, our parents' patterns or genetics as a stepping stone and then move on and make it a better version. But most humanity, or what humans do, is like we just recycle, you know, from our past. This is why we carry on diseases that should have been eliminated a long time ago. You know, great grandfather had heart disease, you know, you have heart disease, or, you know, they have, you know, depression in the family, you've got depression in the family, and then you perpetuate that into your kids and so on and so on. That's not a oneness state. You can't become one if you are, again, harboring other people's frequencies. And what we do in XI, as I help you become, say, exponentially intelligent, is literally pull the best out of, say, your background, your history, your genetics, pull the best out and keep that. And then you expand and grow even bigger. So you perpetuate. And that sounds kind of far-fetched, but if you look at nature, nature does it automatically. it never goes back. It never, say, recreates. If there's viruses, say, in nature in 1 or 2 generations, those viruses are eliminated. There's a cure for those viruses naturally, that natural intelligence that nature taps into. We all have forgotten about that. So it's all about, again, eliminating the past, coming into the present so we can create a great future, and then also using the technology and knowledge of billions of years of, say, evolution that has brought Earth to this level. So that's what exponential intelligence is about. And that's what we're literally all searching for, that oneness state.
Mm. And does that oneness state mean finding the power within us that is also within others? What would you define as a oneness state?
What would I define the oneness state? Sure. So the oneness state, most people, again, think of, I'll do it, the conventional, say, definition of the oneness state. Again, most people think that I'm going to become one when I connect to my higher self. Again, something that's outside of them. I'm going to become one when I connect to a Godhead. Again, something outside of yourself. You can never reach that oneness state if you're always trying to connect something outside of yourself, right? So what, again, becoming exponentially intelligent, what you want to do is, like, you go inwards. You allow, or you connect your spirit to come in. So you create, say, a comfy environment for your essence or your presence to come into our bodies, and that's where that oneness, that integration comes into being. So let's go ahead and take a deep breath in again, and again, we'll make this half hour an experiential experience. And just notice your solar plex, notice your spine. Let's see if I can bring you into that oneness state as we talk. I call these meditations, where all you have to do is just listen and your life changes, especially like on the 18 days that we do. But they're actually hyper meditations. They actually literally rewire you to help you remember the grand being that you naturally are, the higher consciousness being that is creating, say, this avatar that you call your life or yourself. So that's not a oneness state. Again, you're here in a zero state consciousness of time and space. Your spirit, if you want to call it that, I call it your timeless self, your limitless self, is in a zero, is in a no time, no space consciousness. So with potential way beyond anything we could experience here. So oneness to me is like, how close can you get and integrate with those two, say, identities of you without all the filters. And those filters, again, are genetic structures, what you've inherited, social norms, belief systems, ideas, concepts, things like that, that keep you separated from that oneness state, or that higher level being of who you are. A lot of people make money. What they do is they sacrifice themselves for money. So they move further and further away from that oneness state. And then when they do have a lot of money, it's like, gosh, it doesn't fulfill me. That's why a lot of entertainers, they've got everything, but then they commit suicide. Why is that? Because they separated themselves from that oneness state. So to define you specifically, oneness in exponential intelligence is like, how close can you get so you can integrate your timeless self and your time-bound self. And as that integration occurs, you'll experience that, say, spirit form in visual or in real time in this physical world. It's a beautiful state, by the way. You don't have to die to experience it either.
Right. And you died a few times before
Yes.
you experienced it, right?
Yes.
Did you want to talk about how that helped you come into that oneness state?
Yes. And again, notice your spine as you're listening to this, guys. Again, my frequencies that I generate for you, whether this is a recording or not, most of you will most likely feel it. So we'll adjust, say, the way your stature is, and really connect you to that, say, creative aspect or creative genius that you are inside. So the first near death really allowed me to, and I'm not going to go through it all because it's, you can find it on the website, masajady.com or, xisuccess.com. But the first near death really allowed me to understand the concepts of our limitless potential, because that's what I was seeking. People go, well, if I make a lot of money, then I'll be happy and I can save the world, right? I'll be a philanthropist and so on. It doesn't really work out that way. And again, you don't have to believe me. Look at the state of the world and look at all those people that have tried to help, but we're still in the same state. We're still, say, no offense, dumber than ever. Okay, or more unconscious than ever. I'm not saying we're not intelligent here, but we've dumbed ourselves down where machines can take over. Okay, so that's what I mean by dumbing us down. So the first near death allowed me to understand the potential that we have deep inside. That's deep inside in each one of us. The second near death, the first near death, I had my jaws crushed. The second near death was a drowning accident, and in the second near death, it allowed me to understand the mechanics and the physics and the science behind how we create ourselves here, because it's not magic, it's not woo-woo or anything. We just don't understand it. And that science goes way beyond the concepts of, say, the current sciences today. Okay, current sciences are very just limited to, say, the physicalness of this world, and then our mental capacity here. It's like you access more here, but you can't access, say, your brain if you can't access your higher self. So this is why what we do, say, expands people at such a fast rate. So the second near death allowed me to, say, understand the mechanics and improve not only my life, but over the past, say, decade, our research company, XI Science, has transformed, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of individuals massively. And like a 10-minute session, because we work at a deeper level. I would call it the origin of frequencies. We work at a deeper level, which allows us to bypass, say, the transformations taken up by space and time. It takes a long time to change you. It takes a long time to change your belief system, your habits, and so on. But if you can access your higher self, where you're that master blueprint, okay, and eliminate at that level, well, your physical body starts to change radically fast. So that second near death has allowed me to access the science. And again, hundreds of thousands of, say, client sessions have proved that to be true.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'd
Mhm.
love to hear more about this division of your company, XI Science. What are you actually measuring or researching?
Oh, well, it's XI science. Again, it's a whole new science on how to, say, increase human potential.
Okay.
Most people think human potential is, we got to push harder, or we got to get into altered states using, drugs or placebo or whatever else that we do, right? Altered states. And again, it's all about the mind. XI science is actually, it goes into, like, the closest thing is quantum neurobiology. And that consciousness. So the scientists are discovering that there's a connection between, say, your brain cells, not just your brain cells, but your cells, and then there's a consciousness. They can't, say, define it. That consciousness, say, that is your limitless possibilities. Okay, so that bridge between the limited self, or the time-bound self, and that timeless self. So is the science of exponential intelligence. And
Oh, I
that's what we use, or that's what I use to help transform people beyond, say, the scope of, say, the limitations of the current sciences. And this is where people heal themselves. Again, I don't claim to cure anybody, but people have healed themselves, through cancers, or, devastating heart surgeries, where, people have had they've had heart transplants, but they go through the system, they go through the process, and their hearts are just fine. So those are the magical powers that we all have deep inside. And again, guys, I know I have great abilities. People keep telling me I have great abilities, and I keep telling people we all have these abilities. We just have to become one with them, one with ourselves,
Mm,
and those abilities will flourish within all of us. What a great world that would be, wouldn't it?
yeah.
If you could just literally level up, or, expand into that higher consciousness, it'll be an amazing world, because we don't have to use, coerce, we don't have to sacrifice. There's no lack in those realms, and we can experience that here. And people who have experienced it through, the meditations that we do, they actually live like that.
Incredible. Well, we'll keep
Mhm.
staying in that state and visualizing that potential, that possibility, because we want that to happen in our lifetime.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to ask was, how does oneness, this concept that we've been talking about, fit in with our own ascension process? Is that how we can ascend higher and higher, keep getting into the state that you're talking about?
Yes, of course. Oneness is a great concept, but again, conventional wisdom or conventional, say, methods really don't work. It gets you kind of there. It allows you there, but most modalities, again, I'm not knocking them down. They're great, but they're missing that one key component. So you can, like, for example, you can have a great car, but then if you don't have the key to start that car, right? You'll never be able to use its potential. And that's what a lot of modalities are. They can create a great car for you, high performance car, but exponential intelligence is that key to start that car for you. So there's a lot of modalities out there that are fantastic, but like I said, exponential intelligence allows you to go beyond the mind, the limitations of the mind. It allows you to go transcend into, say, your super intelligence. So your super intelligence is, say, the system, some of us might call it your autonomic nervous system, but it goes beyond that. But it's the system that creates you beyond the concepts of the mind. For example, and again, I know it goes pretty deep, but I'll make it hopefully clear. Like when you were born, when you were a single cell, there was a consciousness or an intelligence that directed your, say, blueprint to turn into human form from a single cell. That makes sense, right? Your heart rhythm, your heartbeat, the way you digest food, and the millions of other processes that it takes for you that are way beyond, say, the concepts of the mind, that you have no control of. So that super intelligence is literally, we're helping you tap into that level of knowledge. And that's where oneness becomes, well, real for you, okay? But how do you do that? You got to go beyond the concepts of the mind, and exponential intelligence helps you do that. So oneness to me, or oneness for exponential intelligence, is that you have your timeless self. A lot of people might call it your spirit. I just want to move away from that because there's so many limitations and so many ill definitions of spirit. There's a lot of religious and spiritual definitions that might or might not be accurate. So I would call it your timeless self, your limitless self. And even if you're a scientist or you're atheist, you know that there's a grander being that you could be, right? We all knew it when we were a kid. So you have that timeless self, and then you have all these filters in between that create your physical self here. So this is your physical bound self. And those filters are, your genetic makeup, for example. I always say that you're an accumulated total of your parents and, your parents, grandparents, and, great grandparents. So there's a lot of people's experience that you have deep within you at a cellular level that, well, that dictates that you're not one. You're an amalgamation of all these other people. So oneness wouldn't work for you because you would have to eliminate their experiences and take the best and make it your own. And that's what XI does as well. So oneness overall is that connection between you here physically bound and then your timeless bound self. How close can you get to that connection? And that's how oneness works. That's how creation works, by the way.
Yes, so same as creation, like Mother Nature.
Yep.
So oneness. So how can we see that common thread, that oneness in others that we're having a conflict with? I mean, is that conflict an opportunity for ascension? Is there ultimately, or are we just not supposed to be around them? What do you think about that? And how can we be one with others, but also embrace our uniqueness?
Well, you really don't want to be one with others. No offense.
Okay.
Um, it's Yeah, most people go,
Note
well,
to self.
oneness, let's do all that love stuff and, that kumbaya stuff, and we all love each other. It doesn't work in this reality. That's why, again, we force ourselves. We become politically correct. We pass laws and so on like that. And again, those are all proofs that that stuff just does not work. Being nice at this level doesn't work. I'm not saying not to be nice, but there's a better way of doing it. Okay. So in most instances and in most modalities, it's like, oh, let's go help save this group of people. Let's go help be loving to this friend, and which is totally fine. But the reason why you do all those things that you do, whether it's creating money, wanting better health, wanting to save the planet, is because there's something off with you. Right? There's something off with you that you want to fix, and you think it's outside of you. So again, all those things that I said, don't walk away, guys, and go, yeah, this Moss guy, I just met him and he goes, don't be nice, don't do this, don't do that. I'm not saying that at all, guys. I'm not saying that at all. But look at the outcome, look at the bottom line results on where the state of, say, the world is today. Right? There's more destruction than ever, although there's many opportunities for us to access so we can transform and shift. It's a great divide that's happening. So the way the way you can get to the right side of that divide is literally go inwards and help yourself. So for you, for example, Krista, you were asking us like, well, what if I don't like people? What, do I just force myself to love that person? No, you don't. You ask yourself though, and again, guys, take a deep breath in. I'll just work on that piece for you. So take a deep breath in. And if you start to notice patterns, you'll start to see that it's not just that one person that you're having a conflict with. Okay. It's usually, say, a pattern that pattern will exist in your spouse, that pattern will exist in your children, your career, the way you look at money, the way you look at, say, a Godhead, the way you look at your friends. It's a singular pattern. So when you have conflict with somebody, you ask yourself, what is it in me that's allowing me to attract this type of person in my life? Because it's not, again, if you look back, you'll see algorithms or patterns. This isn't this person that you're having a conflict with. It's not the first time that you've met this type of person. Let's just face it, right? So there's, what's the common denominator here? What's the constant? It's you, right? It literally is you. So you have to go, it's like, oh, okay, I'm having a conflict with this person. What is that conflict? Is there something in me that's allowing me to attract a person like that in my life, even if it's abusive or anything? Again, I'm not blaming you for getting abused or anything, but there obviously is a pattern that is attracting that, say, abusive personality into your life. Right. And then not just in the case of abusive personalities, for example, your job will abuse you. Aliens will abuse you if you believe in aliens. And I talk about that because, I went to an alien conference and there were all these people that were abducted, and I read them. I can read anybody. I can read anybody's blueprint, with my abilities. And each one of them is like, oh God, they're like, they run a pattern of abuse. So even aliens will abuse those individuals. That makes sense to you. So it's always about you. So once you start to figure that out, that conflict with that person, one, either resolves or you disconnect from that person because you're not running those patterns anymore. So, and then you can actually love that person. So, okay.
So did the aliens really abduct them? What was the
Well, there's higher consciousness up there. That's a whole different talk we can talk about. But there is a higher consciousness up there. Sure.
Okay. So how can we shift our consciousness away from these past patterns to live our best life and find that beauty within us?
Yep. Yeah. So how can you shift your consciousness? One, we have to define what consciousness is. And consciousness is not being, say, aware of your environment. So that terminology, and again, I go deeper into the science, through XI lectures and so on like that. But the half hour that we have, again, is not time, space for that. But we have to redefine what consciousness really is. Okay. And then once we get into that, we have to understand, say, the limitations of the mind, because consciousness does not exist in the mind. And then the third step is that we have to become aware of how we create ourselves here through what I call spatial referencing. So spatial referencing allows you to understand how you interact with this reality, how you create and render this reality the way you do. And as you do that, it allows you to see clearly, it allows you to separate yourself from how you're creating yourself. It's kind of like a fish in water. It never knows its environment. It'll never know its environment. That makes sense. You have to be aware enough that, oh my gosh, like we're not aware of our environment here unless, the air is taken away and you go, oh, I need oxygen, but it's more than that. But for example, back to that fish example, that fish has to be conscious enough to go, gosh, you know what? I'm in water. I'm in this liquidy stuff. I don't know what it is. The second state is that you have to become so aware of yourself that you step out of the water and look at it from an outside perspective. Just like Einstein said, you can't solve a problem within the same reality of that problem. You can't have a solution with that. So to raise consciousness, you would have to understand how you're creating, say, this reality, or in the fish's case, how his environment dictates his reality. And that's what consciousness really is. It's an environment that dictates the reality that you're in. If you move or shift out of that consciousness, you change your environment, you change your consciousness. For example, you know what? This water is polluted. It's not good for me. I need to go to another, say, lake, which isn't polluted, which is clean, which is clear. So that's basically what consciousness is about. It's about the environment and the possibilities of what that environment, say, can allow us to do. So it's a whole different scope or definition on consciousness, but it works really, really well because I've transformed or shifted people into different consciousness, and their life literally changes radically fast. So a lot of field, say, proven field tests that out there. Okay.
So how can we tap into conscious creativity?
How do you tap into conscious creativity? Again, spatial referencing, becoming aware. You have to move yourself out of the limitations of the mind, and that's what we do with some of the meditations that we do. Well, all the meditations that we do. That's what XI is really based out of. Moving away from the limitations of the mind, going into the grander scope of who you are, where you can actually leave the reality that you create yourself in. So to do that is you have to become highly aware, and we have tools in XI. Again, if you go to xisuccess.com, those tools are there for you. You can try them out, and you'll actually literally see. Just listening to this, by the way, I was working on you all to help you become aware of your reality. Now, as a note, as you become aware of your reality, some of you might not like how you're creating your reality. That's not my fault. Okay. It's just that you're awakened now and do something about it. So after listening to this, you look around and it's like, gosh, I feel a little uncomfortable with myself and the people around me. It's because you've already elevated yourself to a different level and you're seeing it very differently. Just by listening to this half hour. Some of you go, gosh, it feels really good. You're free. So those individuals, you knew that there was a better version of you out there, and helped you. This half hour helped you, say, transform or shift into another dimensional self of you. And this is like, yep, this is what I've always looked for. This is what I've always been, say, wanting. So
That's amazing.
yeah,
It's
it's
been
really cool.
so, yeah, amazing talking to you about
Thank you
oneness
so
and the
much.
ascension process. And I hope you have a blessed day. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.